What up, everybody? This is the Dr. Football Ultimate Patriots Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Dennis Tien, recording remote from my medical office in Dedham, Massachusetts. Joining me, as always, the CEO of Hedge Better, Justin Fine. We are talking Patriots. We are talking NFL. We are talking everything going on in Foxborough and beyond. Awesome episode planned for y'all tonight. Justin, what is going on, my friend? Football is fun again in New England.
Super fun again, man. Yeah, I'm trying to think about the last time we've had this much to look forward to, and it's been a while. And you know what? I'm loving it. The buzz is different. I wasn't at the game this past week. I'm not sure if you were, but from what I had heard, the atmosphere in the stadium was just different. It seemed back to, from what I heard, back to just the classic Patriots. The energy, the enthusiasm, and I'm excited for it, man. I hope they keep this thing rolling.
Yeah, it was definitely a very different feeling in the stadium than it's been in a long time. Meaningful football. Let's face it, the Patriots have been out of it by Halloween the last couple of years. Yeah. And I mean, even the years they were in it with the first two Mac Jones years, I mean, it was really mediocrity. And I think right now it's a very different feeling because people are seeing that maybe for the first time in a long time. And I'm thinking back to even maybe the last couple of years of Belichick, Brady included in this. We're seeing something being built here. The direction of this thing is headed in the right direction. There's reason for long-term optimism versus pessimism.
Right.
And I don't think you could say that for a while.
No, you haven't been able to say it for a while. I mean, even that, you just alluded to it, but the Mac Jones rookie year, right? His Pro Bowl year, we make the playoffs. It almost felt like we were lucky to be there, right? In that still, not only were we lucky to be there, but we still weren't sure what the future would hold. And now, it doesn't feel like we're lucky. It feels like we're good and we deserve what we're seeing in the results that we're getting. And I think we all feel a lot more confident about the long-term feasibility of this Patriots team and the success that they can keep building on.
Well, that's just it. And look, I mean, we said this last week on the podcast, but you got the coach and you got the quarterback. That's 80% of the battle. That's it. So, and they've got that. And that's why I think people feel so good. You could feel it in the stadium for sure on Sunday. And I feel like, I was there last Sunday. I'm going this Sunday as well. I feel like you're going to feel it again this Sunday for sure.
Yeah, and you know what? This game, it's so tough. I never know what to get out of the Falcons. I mean, they have just been the quintessential, just wild card team in the sense that they could come out and, beat a Buffalo Bills like we saw a few weeks ago, or they could get smoked by the Dolphins. And anywhere in between, you never know what you're going to get. I want to say that this should be, maybe the biggest test they've had since the Bills, but you really just don't know what you're going to get. Nevertheless, they are going to be going up against what on paper should be a decent offense if Mike Penix is back healthy and a decent defense. So.
And the receiver there too.
Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson coming out of the backfield, right? So that's that should be a test for them.
Well, that's what I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see Bijan Robinson versus this run defense. Yeah. Because what this Patriots run defense is doing, and we're going to talk about this in a few minutes, but it's historic. They are actually flirting with NFL record level of run defense. They have not let up one running back have more than 50 yards in a game yet this year. And I think the NFL record for that is 10 weeks, and they're on week 8 of that right now. So, this is a big test for this run defense. I think Bijan Robinson is the best running back in the NFL, but you're right. This Atlanta team is super mercurial. You've been a proponent of them from the preseason. I mean, honestly, from week to week, you could have come in here and either taken medicine or taken a victory lap on that team, depending on the week and how they played. They've been all over the map. They're super inconsistent. And you don't know what team you're going to get from them. I expect the Patriots to roll this team. I'm probably going to throw down on that, if you will. But I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta comes in and stuns everyone either, because there is talent on this Atlanta team.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, look, you're going against what is going to be a team that should be able to test you at every level, right? That defense, they have a couple pass rushers. They got a decent secondary. it should be a test for Drake May, especially throwing that deep ball, right? Because this is probably, on paper, this is even a better secondary than you faced against Buffalo, right? So like this is going to be a good test. And then, like you said, the Patriots defense, you're going up against the likes of what's a good offensive line that is supporting a top tier tight end, a top tier wide receiver, and a top tier running back. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how this Patriots team responds. They've been continuing with the slow start, strong finish kind of patterns. And I don't think it's really going to bite them too much against the Falcons. But, when they start to play some better teams, potentially in the playoffs, when they play the Bills again, maybe see how the Ravens are looking in a couple weeks. I'm going to be curious to see how this team, is able to handle that, because they've been starting slow. They've been picking it back up, but you're not going to be able to do that against these good teams and get away with it, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. Like that's going to burn them a little bit when they play a better team. The thing I'm really interested to see is, this Atlanta defense. None of us think defense when we hear the Atlanta Falcons, and that's just like 20 years of conditioning of them being a crappy defense.
Yeah.
But the reality is this Atlanta defense has been pretty good by and large. Last week, notwithstanding against the Dolphins, they kind of shut down the Bills a few weeks ago. They have a couple really good defenders that can get after the quarterback. Yes. So that's one of the things I'm really going to be looking for this week is can this team protect Drake May? We saw last week against Cleveland, and we will get into this in a few minutes, but the Patriots had trouble with Myles Garrett, and Atlanta is another team with good defensive ends, not Myles Garrett good,
right,
but good enough to cause some disruption, and a defense that's young and upcoming and been able to stop Josh Allen and some other teams at different times this year. So this is a test a little bit for the Patriots offensive line.
Yeah, it is. And I really want to see how they bounce back. Will Campbell really had a poor showing this past week, like you kind of mentioned. And you know what? Look, it's tough to blame the kid. You're a rookie going up against not just one of the best defensive ends in the league, but one of the best defensive ends, I think, of all time, if we're being completely honest.
Maybe the best player in the league.
Right. So, you take the performance with a grain of salt. Ultimately, you'd like to be able to see Campbell holding his own against a guy like that, but I'm not holding it against him. But you know what, the Falcons can come at you from both ends, right? They don't have anybody that's as good as Myles Garrett, but they've got a couple guys on both sides of that defensive line who can come at you from both sides. So I'm going to be curious to see how him and Moses hold up. But yeah, it should be a test for them. Again, depending on what version of the Falcons you wind up getting, which is a dice roll.
Right. Well, exactly. Yeah. And you just don't know, because they really legitimately might be the most inconsistent team in the NFL to this point. And that's sort of been their MO for a while. I am holding the Myles Garrett thing against Will Campbell. We'll get to that in a few minutes, because we are going to talk about Will Campbell, because I think that's one of the real stories from Sunday. But I do want to kick it off with this. When we talk about the Patriots, and what my take home from this game on Sunday is that, look, you beat a team in Cleveland. We know they're a bad team. They've actually caused some trouble for a couple teams. They beat Green Bay a few weeks ago. Yeah. They were competitive with Pittsburgh. They probably have the best defense in the league. I was really impressed with the way this team was able to move the ball and still score points against this really good Cleveland defense. My take home from this Sunday, Justin, is very simple. The Patriots are 6-2 now after this win against Cleveland. Why not the Patriots, and why not this year? A 6-2 team at the midpoint is a legitimate team. I don't care who they've played. They've gone through halfway of the season. They're on pace for 12 or 13 wins. This is a wide open AFC. It is a wide open NFL. Look at every single one of these other teams. The Chiefs are probably the best team in the conference. They have holes up and down their roster. The Eagles are the best team in the NFC. They've got holes up and down their roster. Yeah. The Lions, the Packers, the Bills, the Ravens. I mean, you can look at every single one of these teams and say that there are holes. Yes, the Patriots have holes, but this is not the typical year. There is no dominant team. If you're 6-2 at the halfway point, there's no reason it can't be you. I think the Patriots should be buyers at the trade deadline. Yeah. I think they need to add a few pieces, and there's literally no reason why it can't be this team this year. This is wide open NFL this season.
Look, I agree 100%. And we've said this for a couple of weeks now, right? you look at this Patriots team and they are 6-2. They're the second seed in the AFC. The AFC right now, they're number one in the AFC East, playing really good football. Now, look, I just can't help but think, when I look at the rest of this AFC landscape, this team has just as good a chance as anybody to emerge, out of the AFC. We've said this, the only team that really, worries me a bit is the Chiefs, right? And I think rightfully so. I think the Chiefs.
By the way, the Patriots will be playing in the first round if the season ended today.
Yeah, there you go. Right. And in Gillette, that would be what an awesome game that would be. Right. But I mean, Look, outside of the Chiefs, you've already beaten the Bills in Buffalo, might I add, right? The Colts are good, but not good enough that they scare me. The Chargers, Ravens, teams like that, they're good, but not good enough that they scare me. This AFC is wide open. And then if you're able to get to the Super Bowl, it's one game and anything can happen. We've seen it a million times. I really do think this Patriots team, like you said, should be buyers. Now, the one thing I will say, the caveat to that is, I don't want this Patriots team giving away multiple first round picks for a guy who's 30 plus at this point. Just because I think there's the upside in the future is so bright, if they're able to use this draft capital well, I don't want them to give that up for a 1 or 2 year rental. That being said, if you're able to go out and get a guy in his prime that can not only contribute right now, but can contribute for the next 3, 4, 5 years, I'm okay with that. But overall, I do think the Patriots should be buyers because I think they're not a deep team. They're a good team, but they're not a deep team, and they need to add some depth.
I agree with that. And I think that if you're asking me, where should they be in the market? We all want them to make the super sexy move. Myles Garrett might be available or Trey Hendrickson or something like that. But you're going to have to give up a ton of draft capital in order to do that. And that might not be really worth it. I agree with you 1,000%. They should be looking for depth. I want them to go out and get another lineman or another tackle. Give me an average or above average tackle. Get me a left guard. That's been an issue from the beginning of training camp, really still an issue to this day. To me, the thing that can take this team down is if Drake May gets hurt. Let's protect Drake May. Yeah. Go out and get another lineman. But that to me is the biggest priority at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I totally agree. Depth in the line would be huge. I mean, I'd be okay with 1 or 2 pieces in the secondary because again, I'm looking at it worst case scenario. Obviously, Drake May is the single worst guy that you can lose at this point. But if you were to go down like a Christian Gonzalez or like a Marcus Jones who's been playing out of his mind, this season, you lose a guy like that, and all of a sudden it's a much different look in the secondary, right? Especially when you go up against those teams that have that A1 talent, right? That you got to try to lock down and mitigate, the damage as best you can. So yeah, I want this Patriots team to be buyers. I want them to go out and get good depth pieces. And like I said, I'm okay with them giving up significant draft capital as long as it's someone who will be a staple of this team moving forward, not a 1 or 2 year rental, which at this point, I feel like that's what a Trey Hendrickson would be, right? Like a 1-2 year rental. Myles Garrett, he's the best player in the league, but he's 30, 31 years old, right? So,
I don't even think he's that old. Maybe I'm wrong.
I thought they said he was like 30 or 31. I don't know. A guy like that could maybe still be dominant till he's 30.
29.
29. Okay. So, and you know what? Look, a guy like that who's built like that, he doesn't have an injury history. Maybe he's a dominant player till he's 35. You never know. But it's a risk at this point.
To me, there's too many holes on this team still to go out and trade 2 first round picks to go get a Myles Garrett. I just can't do that, even though, I know he would be just a huge asset to this defense and everything. But I just think they have too many needs still to make that kind of investment in any one player.
Yes, I totally agree. Look, I think this team, is good enough to win meaningful football games. I just want them to be good enough that they can sustain an injury or two at some pivotal spots, which again, look, knock on wood, I don't want to jinx it, but through 8 games, 8 weeks, this team has been extremely healthy in the sense that they have not suffered any major setbacks, right?
That's true.
And I really hope that continues, for the rest of the season, but what are the chances of that, right? How many teams don't suffer some setback in one form or another at some point? So I just want to see them add a little bit of depth so that they can weather a storm if and when it comes at some point.
See, I think the depth thing is a little overrated. I mean, we've been talking about it since training camp, and it's true. I feel like a lot of their sort of middle class pieces, if you will, have actually developed a little over the course of the year. So there's that. But I also feel like, Justin, if you have the quarterback playing at an elite level and you have a really good coach, you know, it covers up a lot of holes on the roster too. And I think that you see that across the league. Show me where the perfect roster is. I don't see it. You know, what I see is that Patrick Mahomes seems to win no matter what. That Josh Allen seems to win no matter what. Well, if Drake May is really one of those guys, this team's going to be able to withstand a couple injuries at least and still keep on chugging.
I hope that's the case. But look, if we're talking about giving this team the best shot to go out there and perform and reach their potential which at this point, look, I'm not saying they're favorites, but their potential is the sky. The sky is the limit, I think, right now for these guys. You know what I mean? So I would hate to see them run up against a Kansas City or a Buffalo or a Baltimore in the playoffs and have depth or some key injuries be the reason why they're not able to move past it. Now, again, a lot has to happen to get to that point and whatnot, but I just want to see this team in as good of a shot possible because they got a lot of momentum right now and a lot of positive things trending upward for them.
I want to talk a little, Justin, about Drake May, but to segue into that, I want to talk about the value of good coaching.
Yeah.
Because I think it was on full display on Sunday.
Totally.
Because this was a game in the first half of this game where a lot went wrong, especially on the offensive side of the ball, okay? They hit some big plays. It's not like they were totally stifled on offense. They were moving the ball, and then they were getting stopped in the red zone a lot. And I want to point out to you two specific times where I thought Josh McDaniels really came through huge for this offense. The first one was on the field goal drive before the half. Okay, big league drive. Josh McDaniels came through. The second one was, actually, I'm going to point out three. The second one was on the drive in the third quarter when they got the ball back. They run a trick play, okay, and then they were getting stifled in the red zone. The whole day, they were moving the ball between the 20s. They were getting stifled in the red zone. They settled for 3 field goals. How did they score their first touchdown? Do you remember?
Their first touchdown.
It was the Hunter Henry rollout play.
Yes, the little bootleg. Got it. Yeah.
Great play design, right? May kept getting sacked by Myles Garrett. He was getting constant pressure on him. A great design by Josh McDaniels. Yeah. Got May out of the pocket and finally got a touchdown. The next drive, again, after the Robert Spillane interception, what do? Third and goal from the 3, a pop pass to Stephon Diggs. A great play design. Yeah. So those are the little things, the coaching things that Josh McDaniels is doing, the adjustments he's making that simply were not there last season for this team. So I think you really saw on Sunday the value of Josh McDaniels and the offensive adjustments and play calling, that really made a difference for this team walking away with this game.
I mean, 100%. The play calling has been a lot better. We've talked about it. And, one of the other things that I think we need to point out, and, we have in the past, but I just want to emphasize is that, it's kind of the rising tide raises all ships type of philosophy, right? Where when you got a guy like Josh McDaniels, that's going to get you the best out of your quarterback. And we're seeing a quarterback right now who's in the MVP conversation, right? Like just playing absolutely out of his mind. And when that happens, you see guys, we were talking about it, texting about it on Sunday. You see guys like Kayshon Boutte, who looks like they were going to be like bubble players, potential cuts or practice squad guys, now elevating to the point where, they're pieces that you can build your franchise around moving forward. Like, I know Kayshon Boutte's not a solidified number 1. He's not a Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, but I'll take Kayshon Boutte as a number 2 wide receiver if he keeps playing like this any week, right? And again, this is a guy that we were wondering if he would make the team, a while back. So and you said this when we were talking, on the phone. You said, well, it's amazing what great coaching could do, right? And that's just it. Like that's the effect of what you're seeing.
Well, I truly believe that if Alex Van Pelt and Gerard Mayo were still the coaches of this team, a game like on Sunday is either a loss or at very least it's a very close game. It was adjustments like what McDaniels made on those two plays where, look, every time they got in the red zone, it seemed like Myles Garrett was coming in, making a sack, disrupting a play, and killing their drives. They settled for 3 field goals in the first half. Adjustments like that, okay, running that trick play to take advantage of Garrett's aggressiveness, running that bootleg to get May out of the pocket. I just thought that was a huge difference in the game.
Oh, it was a big difference. We used to always say one of the things in New England that we had a significant advantage on, amongst everybody else was coaching, right? When we had that, the Belichick McDaniel combo for a long time, and some of those other OCs that were in here, Bill O'Brien, whatnot, but it was our ability to make in-game adjustments, second half adjustments that we always kind of, I think, hung our hats on. And it was the reason why we always, were kind of hopeful even past slow starts and in whatnot. And you're starting to see this now, I think, with the Vrabel McDaniel combination where they are able to make these in-game adjustments. We're talking about slow starts, but they are having strong finishes, and those strong finishes, I think, is a huge reason is because of the coaching and the adjustments that they're making.
There's no question about it. It's so much better than it was last year, and it just makes such a huge difference. And you saw it on full display Sunday. Yep. All right, let's talk a little bit about Drake May and his performance, Justin. A lot of the MVP thing is something we got to get to, but before we even get to that, I want to tell you one thing that I noticed about May on Sunday that I loved, and just to put it in contrast to something earlier in the season, and that is that Drake May did not get rattled on Sunday. He did not get flustered when things didn't go well. Against Oakland or Vegas in week 1, right? What happened? He was playing pretty good. He threw a terrible interception and it fell apart. Well, in case you noticed on Sunday, he was getting hit. He was struggling and he threw a terrible interception. And what happened on Sunday? He did not fall apart. He kept on going. In fact, he made play after play after play. It almost didn't matter how many sacks Myles Garrett got because May's playmaking ability, it was so elite and his poise was so good. He was so unflappable. He's so capable of throwing the ball downfield and getting huge chunks of yardage that it was like totally neutralized. This guy that got 5 sacks and couldn't be blocked. But I love the fact that he didn't lose his poise.
100%. I mean, I think, we've said it ever since that second half of that Vegas game. He's just been the epitome of cool, calm, and collected, right? Mm-hmm. And that's 100%. Really what you're looking for in your quarterback. And we've said this time and time again. So many talented guys that we just didn't think had the chops to cut it at the NFL level because they didn't have the intangibles, they didn't have the head game, the mind game to be an NFL quarterback. And Drake May, I think, is he's proving that not only is he physically gifted and obviously very talented, but the resiliency, the poise, the mental toughness, those are all things that you look for in a franchise quarterback. I mean, you had a quarterback here for 2 decades who arguably was the best of all time in that department, right? And 100%. So and so you see your young quarterback now who's showing really good positive signs in terms of his ability to battle and weather the storm and keep punching and take the downs and respond back with the ups. And yeah, I'm really excited with what I'm seeing from him because you know what, look, especially against when you play better teams, it's not going to all be sunshine and rainbows, right? He's going to be under pressure. He's going to throw some picks. They're going to be down at some points. And that's really when true winners step up and make plays.
And in all my years of watching football, I'm not sure I've ever seen a game or a situation where a quarterback got sacked 5 times and had those 5 sacks be totally irrelevant. Yeah. To the outcome of the game. Usually when a quarterback gets sacked that often, it all falls apart.
Let alone by one guy.
Right, by one guy. Right, exactly. It was the 5 sacks. It was I don't want to say they didn't matter, but they were speed bumps. Yeah. And it was May's playmaking ability was just so significant that it just erased them. I've never seen that happen before in all my years of watching football.
Yeah, no, he was tough, man. And it's funny just to throw it back to the Mac Jones era. And I know we don't want to keep bringing him up, but because you really can't compare them at this point. Like it's night and day, the Mac Jones era and the Drake May era. But remember, we would see Mac Jones on the sideline, like visibly
the breathing
flustered,
exercises,
the breathing, the facial expressions, the complaining, just the body language, and it's like that really is indicative of what type of quarterback you got. Drake May the guy is just so cool, calm, and collected at all times. You look at his face and you can't tell whether he just threw a 60-yard touchdown or whether he just got sacked again for the 5th time, like you mentioned. And that speaks volumes.
So the pass to Booty, the 40-yard pass, the touchdown pass to Booty, that happened right in front of my seats at Gillette Stadium. And that was one of the most amazing passes I've ever seen ever. The rotational velocity, like the spin of that ball. I'm not sure I've ever seen a pass that was just quite so perfect, to be honest with you. And, it just speaks to the talent. And, he's obviously the best downfield passer in the NFL right now, which is crazy, but historic.
It's historic. And, on that pass, obviously the throw is incredible, but when you watch him release that ball, it was effortless. Like it was like he was in the practice fields. Like, you know what I mean? It was just cool, calm, and collected again.
And how about the other thing he made look easy, but we've seen so many quarterbacks not be able to do this. How about the way he climbed the ladder into the pocket on that and just stepped up into the pocket so smooth and instinctively? How many quarterbacks have we seen? Look at Caleb Williams. He probably would have run backwards or something on that play. How many guys have we seen just or sit there and take the sack, having that instinct to just step up into the pocket and climb the ladder and then just effortlessly release the ball. It was something else. So, Justin, here's the question everyone's talking about, all the national shows, ESPN, locally, nationally. Drake May is in the MVP race right now. Is Drake May the MVP of the NFL at this point?
He is firmly in the conversation. I'm not willing to call him the MVP right now. I think, it's tough. I'll tell you this. You look at the guys who people were talking about as ahead of him. I had heard Dak's name, which, look, I'm over Dak at this point. I'm over Dak and the Cowboys. Yeah. All right. I'm done with them. I think May's ahead of Dak. Baker, look, I think he's right up there. He's almost neck and neck with Baker. What? One guy that I will say, which, I think at this point you just got to start talking about him just because of the pure numbers at this point, and he's not even a quarterback, is Jonathan Taylor. I mean, he has 15 touchdowns. Saquon Barkley last year, people were saying he should have been the MVP. He had 15 touchdowns in the season. Taylor's on track for 2,200 yards, and he has 15 touchdowns right now through 8 weeks, right? So I'd probably put Taylor as I'd probably go Taylor, Mayfield, May. That would be my top 3 right now.
I 1,000% agree with you. To me right now, the MVP of the NFL is Jonathan Taylor. And I know that we have a bias towards giving that award towards quarterbacks. And I know a running back hasn't won that award since 2007. So that's a long time. But I really think if you look at it, yes, you have to give it to Jonathan Taylor at this point.
Right.
For me to say Drake May is the MVP, look, I need to see him do what he's doing in a game where, I feel like they're creating a bubble for him. He's only throwing the ball 25-ish times a game, right? Yeah. The only time he threw more than that was against the Raiders, and it really kind of fell apart. I need to see him do it in a game where this whole little Vrabel McDaniels imposed shell or bubble falls apart and he's forced to throw 30, 35, 40 times because nothing else is working, and he's still able to go out there and win. That's what I need to see from him. I feel like right now he's amazing. He's elite. I've been bullish on him from before they even drafted him, but I need to see him be able to do it outside with the restraining bolt off, if you will, where he just goes out and he has to throw the ball 35 or 40 times and he's still able to do what he's been doing.
I agree 100%. I think, and look, you might get a couple chances at that, right? I could see
inevitably you will.
Inevitably you will. That Buccaneers game could turn into a shootout against a Baker Mayfield, right? That Bengals game could turn into a shootout. The Ravens and Lamar Jackson, that could turn into a shootout. Obviously, you got the Bills again, that could turn into a shootout. I think you got 4 great candidates right there in terms of games that can really make or break May's MVP candidacy. I'll tell you what will solidify that for me is if the Patriots stay hot on this run, right? And then they host the Bills. I forget what week exactly that is, right? Is that
December 14th?
Right. So is that what, 13, 14, something like that?
That's going to be like week 14.
14,
probably.
yeah. Okay. So if the Patriots are like, 12-2, whatever, 11-3 heading into that, and they outduel the Bills again at home in all but, potentially lock up the AFC East, that to me will be my signed, sealed, and delivered Drake May for MVP moment, because I do think you need to see him, like you said, take the restraining belts off and just absolutely outduel a class quarterback that you would consider to be above him at this point, right? I know we're talking about.
I mean, and you have to remember they've been able to control these games because they've been playing against bad teams,
right?
And like when they play a good team and they fall behind 14-0, and you're really relying on Drake. You can't, hand the ball off 30 times and do what they've been doing. Like, that's what I need to see. Like the game that gets out of hand and he still elevates them to the point where they win. And I need to see probably more than once before I say he's MVP.
Yeah. Yeah. I would totally agree.
Go ahead.
No, yeah. Just saying, I would agree.
Let's talk about Will Campbell a little bit before we move on to some of the stuff on the defense, because I mean, look, Will Campbell, rookie, going against terrific, best player in the league. I got to say that I can't explain away 5 sacks. I know that I've heard a lot of different things this week. It wasn't that bad. Maybe Hunter Henry wasn't that good. He's a rookie. He's going against the best player in the league. I fully expected Will Campbell to come into this game and give up a sack or two. And I would say, okay, that's part of the learning process. When you give up 5 sacks, and not all of them were Campbell's, I think 4 of them were on Campbell. It's hard for me to not walk away from that and be like a little concerned about Campbell. And I've been bullish on him so far.
I mean, it's concerning, but I think when you 5-10 years from now, when you hear Will Campbell talking about his welcome to the NFL moment, I think this is what we're going to hear about, right? If you think about it, up to this point, right? Who has he gone against that can even, hold a candle to Myles Garrett, right? And so I think this was very much so a whoa, like a holy crap type of moment where he just has never gone up against somebody like that. And I would expect Garrett to get the best of him. Now, obviously, you come away from this feeling a lot better if Campbell had kept Myles Garrett at bay and had held his own, right? You come away feeling fantastic, saying, "Oh my God, he just went toe to toe with Myles Garrett." That being said, I'm not ready to panic about it. It's still his rookie year. You're still not even at the halfway point. In this jump up in competition between what you face to this point to him is just leaps and bounds, I think, against anything you could even prepare for. So I'd be curious to see if he goes up against him again, next season or, what have you, because there are some other good defensive ends out there. But I think this was just like a heat check. It was just like a welcome to the NFL moment for the kid.
I just have a hard time. I mean, 5 sacks, that's a team record for I think it's a team record for the Browns. It's like, it's not like, I don't know, he gave a few bad, plays or something. This was like a consistent thrashing. So, that's what makes me nervous, but I hope Campbell is able to recover from it. He is young. I fully admit that. And like you said, I'm not panicking on him, but I'm legit a little concerned about what I saw from him on Sunday. Hopefully it was just a learning experience for him and he recovers. I want to talk about another young player, Justin, that I thought really, I thought made me feel a little bit better about this offense, and that's Travion Henderson.
Yeah.
Because for the first time we saw from him that he belongs in the NFL. And, this whole backup running back thing, we talked about it last week. This is a big issue for this Patriots team because Stevenson will get hurt. Stevenson will fumble again. Where do these carries go when Stevenson is hurt or unavailable? It's a big problem. I was legit worried about Travion Henderson through those first 7 weeks. He showed against a really good defense on Sunday that he is an NFL running back, that he can pick up the slack if something happens to Stevenson. I thought that was huge.
Yeah, his best showing by far. Don't like the fact that, it was his first fumble, dating back to his high school career, right? He didn't fumble in college. He hadn't fumbled yet this year.
Did he fumble against? Oh no, it was Antonio Gibson that fumbled against
Gibson.
The Steelers.
Yeah, he hasn't fumbled. I literally don't think since high school. But you know what? Right. Look, it's unrealistic to think the guy's never going to fumble, right? Everybody fumbles. The best running backs in the league fumble from time to time. So whatever, it's going to happen. But you're right. It was easily his best showing of the year. It also makes me wonder too, because we had speculated that there was some potential injury concerns and he wasn't 100% healthy. Yeah. I'm now leaning in the side that he just maybe wasn't prepared, or maybe it was a statement from the coaches. Because he looked pretty healthy, and I don't think you go from in a week's time, you go from being severely hindered by an injury to being able to go out there and look like that.
Yeah, and it might just be one of those things too. We saw this with James White. Like, it took him a little while to kind of catch up to the speed of the NFL game. Yeah, and I think that probably is what happened to Henderson. But I would rather him be a James White than a guy that just can not play in the league. And obviously it's been a little bit of a slower than expected learning curve for Henderson for a lot of us Patriots fans, but he did a lot on Sunday to show that he's going to be a part of this thing moving forward. And I think, as he continues to get comfort and continues to get experience, my sense is he's probably going to continue to get better. So I thought it was just so huge that we're able to see what we saw from him on Sunday.
Yeah, I agree, because, we talk about this Patriots offense and how good Drake May looks and how good this team looks. The thing that can take this team to the next level, is having an advanced running game where you have a 1-2 punch that can take the load off of Drake May when needed. So 100%. You know what I mean? Like, heading into the end of this year, I want to see a Travion Henderson that you can trust to go out there and he'll make you some explosive plays from time to time and give this offense a whole lot more depth. So I'm glad to see that. Hopefully it's starting
just
now.
To illustrate what you just said, right? Like, the key drive in this game might have been the third quarter first drive the Patriots had, and that was pretty much all running game. Yeah. That was pretty much all running game.
Yep.
So the passing game wasn't working. They were moving the ball. May kept getting sacked and taking hits, and drives were stalling. They were able to rely on their running game for maybe the first time this year.
Yes. Yeah. No, very, very important. So yeah, I hope that we continue to see that get better and better each week. And knock on wood, Ramondre's been okay the last few weeks. I'm still not convinced that his problems are in the rearview mirror. But, if he can be solid and Travion Henderson could take that next step, I think we'll see a nice little complementary element to this offense.
Yep, I agree completely. Let's talk a little, Justin, about this defense. We haven't talked a ton about them yet. Before we even get into their performance on Sunday, I do want to just start briefly with the big news of the day, which is the signing of Marcus Jones. And I love this for so many reasons. Yeah. First of all, the guy has been excellent so far this year. And he's not a traditional corner in the sense of a shutdown corner like Christian Gonzalez. But in today's NFL, these slot corners are more valuable than ever. And he fills a role. And if you put him in the right role, he thrives in that role. So I love that they signed that. And I love that they signed another one of their draft picks, because that's been a big issue. There haven't been many draft picks that have been good enough to deserve second round contracts. So I think it's huge on many levels that they made this signing today.
It is big. And look, we've seen him come up, and make big plays all year, right? I think about that interception of Josh Allen, and a few others where, he really just stood out to me. I think it's awesome, like you said, because he he's the type of guy who's going to thrive in that like nickel slot corner role, right? He is not the type of guy who I want to line up on the outside and have him cover a DK Metcalf or a CD Lamb, right? But he's a guy that I love playing that slot corner position. So I think it's great that they signed him. Again, you talk about the homegrown element of it, and you're just solidifying a little bit of depth in your secondary, and I think he deserves it. I think he's played his way into that second contract.
1,000%. And let's not also forget to mention the special teams thing. I mean, there was that Carolina game. I mean, that was huge. The punt return in that game really kind of changed the whole game. So he brings that piece of it as well. But he's become a valuable part of it. I'm glad he's going to be a Patriot for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, what I didn't see him. Maybe it's come out since they announced it this afternoon, but I didn't see the details of the deal itself. Do we know how many years and what the money was?
I actually don't. I haven't even seen that either. Okay. That would be interesting to look at. We'll have to look that up for next time.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what about this defense in general? I mean, what can you say? I mean, the only team in the NFL that's given up less points per game than them is Kansas City. They're fifth in scoring defense, but a bunch of the teams tied with them or ahead of them have played only 7 games. Kansas City's been the only defense in the league that's actually objectively scored or given up less points per game than this Patriots defense. So, I mean, really, this front seven has been amazing. I think the secondary is improving. They got the slow starts thing, which seems to be a recurrent thing that something's going to have to be done about that. But overall, I mean, they were great on Sunday. And I mean, you can't argue with what this defense has given you so far through 8 games.
No, you can't. And I mean, all the signings have been pretty solid. I mean, I got to tell you, Robert Spillane is quickly becoming like, my favorite player in that defense. Yep. Like he has just been worth his weight in gold. I mean, you know the guy is a run stopper and a force up front, but I mean, he's got a couple interceptions on the year. Like he's all over the place. So I think this defense, as long as they're able to stay healthy, I think they're just going to continue to get better. And we're seeing them get better each week. And at this point with the personnel they have, I hope they just keep gelling and they just keep improving, because that's really.
Milton Williams too has been worth every dollar they've spent on that guy.
Yeah, 100%. Now, what does worry me a little bit is the whole hiccup with Barmore this week. I don't really know what the details of that were.
Benched for the first quarter. I know, from what I had heard, he didn't seem too happy, after the game. So, I hope that whatever that issue is, it was nipped in the bud, and that's not going to be something that lingers moving forward. Yeah, I mean, if you heard Vrabel's comments in his WEI interview on Monday morning, I really thought that he said it perfectly. Just kind of like, I had to do what I had to do. We're putting this behind us. And they did hug after the game. So I don't know what happened. I don't think it's really leaked out. There hasn't been any reporting on it, which credit to Vrabel for that, because, remember he was complaining about leaks earlier. Yes, remember he said that thing about the leak earlier in the preseason? Yeah. I got to find the rat or something like that. I mean, it really hasn't come out why Barmore got benched, which is probably a good thing for the organization and speaks well of the operation over there. But, it sounds like everyone's moved beyond it, and hopefully it won't become an issue, because he is an important piece.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, let's talk quickly before we move to around the league. Let's talk about this, the opposition, the Browns. Like, first of all, can we just say this? How bad does Shedeur Sanders have to suck that he can't get on the field at this point? Because Dylan Gabriel is not an NFL quarterback. Like, a scrappy guy, probably has a role as a backup somewhere, clearly not talented enough to be an NFL quarterback.
I'm still wondering at this point whether it's the talent or whether, like, the same thing that forced him to drop from a projected first round pick all the way to the 5th round, was clearly his ego and his attitude, right? And, the whole persona of him. Like, do we think that's still an issue? Because, like, I just can't understand it. He's definitely
it has to be.
It has to be, right? Because, like,
he must have pissed off so many people on that coaching staff or in that locker room, because there's literally, it makes zero sense why they wouldn't at least give him a shot.
It makes zero sense. Like, you can't there's nothing you can tell me to convince me that Dylan Gabriel is a better talent from a pure talent standpoint than Shedeur Sanders, right? So
100%.
To me, like, it's got to still be like an attitude and like a persona thing. I heard the other day that I forget who it was that inquired about a trade, and the Browns, said they wanted a second round pick for him, something like that, right? So It's like they're putting a second round value on this kid's head, and it just tells me that, like, there is some level of talent and ability there. And I've also heard from their beat, if you've heard any of their beat writers talk or followed up with any of their reporting, that he's like far and away the best quarterback in practice. So
it's really intriguing. Like the whole thing, from everything from the draft on with him has just been like so hard to figure out. And you just have to put it into the fact that he has just pissed off so many people in that building that they don't even want him to see the field. But at the same time, I mean, you can't tell me he's not the best quarterback on that roster. Like, I'm going to date myself with this reference here, but this is a reference for my fellow Xennials and late millennials that played Super Tecmo Bowl growing up. And that pass that Dylan Gabriel threw that got intercepted on the deep ball, that was like Steve Grogan in Super Tecmo Bowl. If you've ever played that game, Justin, it was like, it goes up and it goes way up. He had no arm strength. That's what that pass looked like. It was just like, I'm like, it was a fluttering lollipop. And I'm like, I mean, really? And you tell me Sanders couldn't do better than that?
No, he totally can. Yeah, it's there's something going on. He angered the wrong people. Something about his attitude. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely not a pure talent decision at this point in time. And look, it's like, the Browns decided to move on from Flacco, which I think was questionable. Then they chose Dylan Gabriel over Sanders to take the reins, which again I thought was questionable. So it's like, at this point, two dudes down, he's still third on the depth chart right now. It's just it just tells you that something stinks of issues beyond talent at this point. So yeah, I don't know what it is, but I would be shocked to see him have a long career in Cleveland, because they clearly,
because you know what, I don't think that Cleveland team is really all that bad if they had a good quarterback. Like, I mean, but they literally probably have the worst quarterback situation in the NFL right now. And I think it's just total malpractice as a franchise to go into the year and have that as your quarterback situation. 2 mid-round draft picks, Joe Flacco and Deshaun Watson. And it's like, how does an NFL franchise, even think that was going to lead to anything but like a 2 or 3 win season? Yeah. At best.
Totally.
All right, Justin, are you ready to move to Around the League?
Let's do it.
All right. As always, we're going to start with the Bill Belichick minute, my friend. Is Bill Belichick just a wild old man that's trying to get a good time in before the clock strikes midnight? Or is he truly gone off the rails on the crazy train? We break it down on this week's Bill Belichick minute. Justin, Bill Belichick this week, I got to say, if I'm being honest, I mean, they're looking better in North Carolina. I think he may be saving his job. I don't know.
They're looking better. They're still not winning. You know what I mean? They are looking better.
2 crushing losses in 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, look, we talked about for a long time here how moral victories weren't cutting it after a certain point. Right. And how far a moral victory is going to get you down in Carolina. I mean, you're hearing more and more things leaking about Lombardi down there and the issues he's having, with him. And it just sounds like, it sounds like we knew it was messy, right? We knew it was a messy situation, but there's so many layers to the mess now. It's like an onion of distractions and rumors and messiness down there. So, I mean, I don't know if he's buying himself any time. Again, he really hasn't had any big wins, right? He's got a couple games where they didn't get the doors blown off them, which I guess, is a step up from where they were at the beginning of the season. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't see it getting better anytime soon.
Did you hear his press conference after the game when the female reporter asked him why he went for 2? And it was just classic, like Belichick, like, because I thought it was the right thing to do. I'm trying to win the game. And that was like the only explanation he had to offer. And I'm sorry, like when you've won 6 Super Bowls, that plays. And when you're in New England too, I think that might have played. He certainly had, like, being the greatest coach ever, he had like a lot of, street cred here, but I'm not sure that's going to play too well down in North Carolina either. Like, I heard that answer and it was just kind of cringy. It's like, you know what? Humble yourself to give people an explanation, Bill. We get that you're trying to win the game, but could you just maybe humor us and tell us a little into what your thinking was behind this very controversial decision? It's like, I don't know if that attitude, that demeanor that he got away with in New England is really going to, like, fly anymore now that they're like 1-6 and there's so much question around the program. So I did think that was a bad look.
It's a bad look. And look, to take that a step further, going back to his comment he made, whatever it was a few weeks ago about, well, there's no owner and their son or something to that effect, right? I mean, look, when you're the head coach and the GM of an NFL franchise, the owner's really the only person you have to answer to, right? At this collegiate level, you got you got donors, you got spot. There are so many people who can collectively get together. Administrators, alumni.
Donors,
exactly.
Parents.
Right. Parents. It goes way beyond just an owner and their son, right? So there's a lot of people that you now effectively have to answer to, and those people didn't get 6 Super Bowls out of you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they're not going to find it
like
amusing.
A standoffish jerk in the post-game press conference. So how does that resonate with all those people? And that is a problem for him down there.
I totally agree with that. I think it's only going to be a matter of time before that collective group of influential minds are calling for his head, if they're not already.
Yeah, I'm in a strange place on Belichick because on one hand, I'm rooting for him to figure it out deep down inside because I love him and he is the greatest coach ever. And then on the other hand, I just want it to end because it's so ugly. Yeah. So like, it's kind of like I'm kind of blowing back and forth, but I don't know. I think his future is still very much in doubt for next year, but I think, look, if you're being honest, as much as everyone wants to kick him while he's down, fine. They're showing some subtle signs of things improving. So,
yeah, the only way it could get more interesting for me is, as if this Carolina job was just some sort of placeholder, because there are some big college jobs that are going to be opening up. Yeah. LSU's open. I think Florida's going to be open. There's going to be some vacancies in some pretty big programs, right? And I'd love to. If he doesn't step away at the end of this year, I would be very interested to see how he could do at a big program like that with big money and big talent. But
who in their right mind is going to touch this guy with a 10-foot pole? At this point, this is his last coaching job, Justin, unless something drastically changes and he figures it out. And in a couple of years, he has value. No NFL team will touch him.
I hope so. I hope so.
But wouldn't it be interesting? No college team, I don't think will. I don't think so. I mean, it would be great if he came back to the NFL. It'd be great theater. But could you see an NFL team touching him?
No.
Right?
At this point, no.
Not at this point. Not after everything that's happened in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's go to some other stuff around the league before we wrap this up. Start with our victory laps and take our medicine. I got a little bit of both. If you want me to go or you want to go first?
Yeah. Go ahead, kick it off.
All right, I'm going to start by taking some medicine. Look, I'm not saying I was a huge fan of this team, but I did pick the Arizona Cardinals in my parlay to win the NFC West. And I'm looking at the standings now. They didn't play last week, but they're 2-5. They look like a total disjointed mess. The quarterback is hurt again. Why would anyone ever invest in Kyler Murray, at this point in any serious, meaningful way? The guy, not only is he super erratic on the field while he is talented, he can't stay healthy. It looks like that thing is about to fall apart there. So my pick for the Arizona Cardinals to be the NFC West champion seems like a pretty lousy pick. And by the way, in that same parlay, the other 3 teams I have are the Eagles, Packers, and Buccaneers. So I did $50 to win like $3,000, and it's going to be the Cardinals that take me down. So I'll take medicine on that.
Yeah, you know what? The Cardinals are the Cardinals just been doing what the Cardinals do for the last couple seasons, which is, they kind of start off hot. And then they totally just collapse, lose a bunch of games that they have no business losing. And it just kind of, spirals out of control from there. I guess to flip that around, right, to take a victory lap, and I think it's a victory lap for both of us. Now, granted, the caveat with this is the fact that Jaden Daniels has had some health issues this year, right? He's missed a ton of time, but yeah. I think we both rightfully said that this Washington team was more likely due for a regression than they were. For a dominant season heading into 2025. I know after last year, they go in and they upset the Lions. They play in the NFC Championship game, and everyone says, "Oh, the future is super bright for these guys." Again, I know Jaden Daniels hasn't been healthy, but I think we kind of both snuffed out that this team was due for a regression in 2025.
Well, yeah, I mean, they won like 6 or 7 one-score games. I think they were like 7-0 one-score games last year. So you just do the math on that. Like, that's going to regress. And then they completely pulled the carpet out from under themselves in the preseason with the whole Terry McLaurin thing, who was hurt again and has been hurt all year, missed training camp. The whole thing just looks out of sync there this year. I think their problems go way beyond Jaden Daniels and his injury. I know that's a huge factor in it all, but I still feel like the Commanders should be a better team than what they've been. So you're right. There is something way off in Washington. And I mean, at what point do we start to question Jaden Daniels and his ability to stay on the field? This was a big issue for him coming into the draft, and it's kind of rearing up already here in year number 2.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's not a physically imposing guy, right? Like he's the type of dude you start to worry about his physical durability now, right? He is on like the smaller, more slender side, and now these health issues. Now it's am I correct in the sense that the injury he's dealing with now is a different injury than he was dealing with in the first couple games of the season? I think this is.
I believe so. Yeah. I think it's a hamstring this time.
Yeah. So I think it's a second. I fact check me out there if you're listening, but I think it's a totally separate injury now that he's dealing with. So yeah, you got to start to worry about his durability. And any quarterback that uses their legs and takes as many hits as much as he does, the questions are going to be out there. How many times can you do that before the injury bug starts to get
Plus,
you?
he's a diminutive guy. He's like 6'1", 200 pounds.
Exactly. Nothing physically imposing about him, So.
I'm not ready to say that Drake May is the MVP yet, but I am 1,000% ready to say that if I had to redraft the 2024 quarterback class, I would definitely take Drake May number 1. And I know what Jaden Daniels did last year, and I like Jaden Daniels, but I'm sorry, like I'll take May over him right now.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
All right, I'll take a victory lap too. My victory lap is going to be this week on a pick against the spread that I really loved, and the line just made no sense to me. And usually when this happens, I end up getting screwed. So but I went with it, and that is I love the Denver Broncos -3.5 against that fraud Dallas Cowboys team. If you look at the home road splits for Dallas, their defense is bad at home, but they are terrible on the road. The offense is excellent at home, and they're mediocre on the road. Denver is a great home team. They have the altitude advantage. They are a very good team. I couldn't figure out why they were only 3.5 point favorites. It was my pick of the week. Loved the Broncos last week. Have them to win that AFC West division, and they're definitely proving me and you right, because I know you like them from preseason too.
Yeah. No, they're definitely impressive, man. I mean, look, when you got a defense like that, I mean, they're really just solid from the top down, right? They have good coaching, good young quarterback play, solid offensive line. They got weapons, one of the best defenses in the league. I mean, there's not too many holes in that in that Broncos organization right now. So when you're as sturdy as they are, you expect to see the results, and I think they're 5-2, 6-2 right now, 6-2. So and they're atop the AFC West. So there's no reason for me to think that that's going to change anytime soon. I know the Patrick Surtain injury might be a little concerning. I hear he's a potential candidate for IR, but they're really deep on defense.
And look at their schedule the next month. I mean, the next 2 weeks they got a bye week. They got They got the Texans. They got the Broncos.
Yeah.
So
yeah, as long as he can come back healthy at some point in the second half of the year, I'm not too worried about the Broncos. Now, I guess I'll take a little bit of medicine just because, I did say that once Rashee Rice came back that this Chiefs team would be a totally different team. So, I was right about that, but I was wrong in the sense that, I kind of thought that the Chiefs' reign of dominance was over heading into this year. I thought they'd be a good team, but I just didn't see them having what it takes to come out and be Super Bowl contenders again. And you know what? It's a mistake. And who should know better than us, right? Because when we had Tom Brady here all these years, we were a Super Bowl contender every year, even the years where we thought maybe it was all falling apart or we didn't have the best team. When you have Brady and Belichick, you're always a contender. When you got Mahomes and Reed, you're always a contender. And I think now, especially two games in with Rashee Rice back, they're looking so dangerous. And I think they're probably the best team in the AFC, if not the best team in football right now.
I agree with that, but I don't think you need to take medicine on that, because to me, the Chiefs being a Super Bowl contender this year is more about the AFC than it is the Chiefs, because there's no dominant team this year in the AFC. The Chiefs are the flawed team that you said that they were. The only thing is they have Reed, they have Mahomes, and the conference is wide open. That's why everyone likes them. They still have a ton of holes on the team. The receivers are still meh. The offensive line is still meh. The defense has been really good, but we knew they had a good defense. And Mahomes is playing as well as he's played in a couple of years. But, they're no super team in Kansas City, so I don't think you were wrong about that.
No, they're not a super team. And, the one thing that I think is going to wind up being unfortunate is that, if there was ever a chance to keep Mahomes and the Chiefs out of the playoffs, like, this was kind of it, right? Starting off with three quick losses in the season. The Broncos and Chargers both started off hot, and now it looks like the Chargers. I'm still not ruling them out of the playoffs, but they had a chance to to separate themselves and really get a stranglehold. I think you look at the Bengals and the Ravens falling apart, the Texans falling apart. Like, you just know, I don't think the Chiefs are going to win that division, but you just know they're going to wind up sneaking into the playoffs now. They're going to get a wild card.
They're the team in the AFC that everyone will fear and should fear, yes, rightfully so. I mean, none of these other teams are great. So, when you say the Chiefs are the favorite in the AFC right now, that's something I totally agree with. But that's more because of the AFC than I think because of the Chiefs are that great a team.
Yeah.
All right, Justin, did the Ravens save their season on Sunday? I'm going to tell you, like I said this a few weeks ago, if you remember, in spite of everything that's happened, I don't think that Ravens team is cooked yet. I really don't. I think that AFC North is a wide open division. Pittsburgh really isn't that good. They're an 8 or 9 win team. The Bengals and the Browns they're absolutely irrelevant. I still think the Ravens are going to win that division.
I wouldn't be shocked. The Lamar Jackson injury heading into this week, though, I don't know if it's a little concerning or if there's some trickery going on. He was not listed on the injury report at one point, and then he all of a sudden he didn't play. You wonder what the extent of the injury really is, if they were just being cautious. But why would you be cautious when your season's literally kind of at stake at this point? So I don't know, but if he comes back healthy, this team, I think, has a good chance of getting into the playoffs and causing some damage, just because they're just so talented, right? Like,
is he going to play on Thursday night in Miami?
I don't know. I would hope so at this point. But if you're going to play Thursday, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm really
just
not sure.
It. He is expected to play.
He's expected to play. Okay, so
what? So that's just it. They got Miami this week, which I still like. They're by the way, they're huge favorites. So the line makes no sense, right? Miami's coming off a big win. The game is in Miami. The Ravens have struggled. The Ravens are a 7-point favorite. Take the Ravens in that one.
Yeah, definitely.
The line makes no sense. I think the Ravens blow the door off Miami. But then they still got 2 games against Pittsburgh. Soft division. I like that team. I really do. I still think they find a way to win that division.
Yeah.
Even at 2-5.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right. Eagles should wear their Kelly green uniforms every week. Agree or disagree? Like those might be the most mint uniforms in the NFL.
Yeah, I love those. I do wish they would wear those more. Yeah, I mean, you know what, the Eagles to me are just a team that I still don't trust them, even though they're coming off a Super Bowl win and they have a stacked roster. I still don't trust them. But you know what? I still think they got to be the favorites at the top of the NFC to make it out of there. I mean,
they're 6-2, and this was really the first time that they looked like the Eagles, or at least the Eagles of last year. I mean, Saquon Barkley hasn't been good this season. He's looked old. He's looked slow. He's looked hurt. They haven't been able to run the ball. On Sunday, this was the first time they looked like the Eagles.
Right, and coincidentally enough, without AJ Brown. I wonder, I feel like, they said he's got a hamstring injury. I think he might just be throwing a little bit of a hissy fit over there in Philadelphia. But yeah, you know what, the Eagles are obviously still scary. They're obviously, I think, still the team to beat in the NFC. And yeah, I agree. The Kelly green, they need to bring those back for an extended period of time. It's just so much better than that teal green. I don't even know what you call it. Yeah. Gray green.
It is a classic uniform. I mean, some of these throwback uniforms are like totally miss. I'm thinking of the Steelers and the Packers on Sunday night. Those are two of the most awful uniforms I've ever seen. But those Kelly greens are just mint. They are beautiful.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's talk about the Jets, Justin. I gotta say, man, like I'm telling you, I'm calling this right now. Bet on the Jets winning just enough games to push them out of the top 5 of the draft. It is the most Jets thing they could possibly do. They're not going to make the playoffs, but they're going to win like 4 or 5 games. They're going to end up picking 7. I mean, really, the best thing for the Jets would have been to lose that game on Sunday. I hate to say it, but that's the truth. Find a way to have this impossible comeback win. It is the most Jetsy thing they could possibly do.
That was the most Jetsy thing they could possibly do, and the Bengals losing that game was the most Bengals thing they could have possibly did. That was just.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to them in a sec.
Yeah, that was so bad. I totally agree. The Jets are gonna somehow find a way to rattle off a couple of wins and screw themselves. And you know what? Look, that's how the Jets wind up staying the Jets. So it's just par for the course. I am a little bit happy though for Justin Fields because I think he's been taking a lot of flack and a lot of crap, from the media. I mean, the guy came out basically and, told everybody he'd been crying in his closet like all week, it's professional sports can be rough sometimes, it can be ruthless. You know what I mean? And so, especially a guy like that, who's been passed around multiple organizations, been written off as like a backup. It's nice to see somebody like that get a little bit of satisfaction at a time when he probably needed it the most. But yeah, you know what, it's totally gonna bite them in the butt. I agree. I think they'll wind up probably getting 4 or 5 wins when it's all said and done, and land with like the 5th, 6th, 7th pick.
I mean, Fields is showing everyone that he is a good backup quarterback. That's what this year is. No one's ever gonna give the keys to the franchise to Justin Fields again. That would be totally reckless. He's had 3 chances now, and he's showing he can't do it, and that's fine. He's going to be a good backup quarterback for someone somewhere, and he will be good enough to completely screw the Jets from drafting a top quarterback.
Yeah,
and then you're right on the other side of the ball. I mean, what can you say about Zach Taylor in this Bengals team? Like, I'm sorry. I know they lost Joe Burrow, but you hung out 38 points on Sunday. Would Burrow have gotten 45? And is that what you need to win? And if it is, then that's a problem for your defense. And is that bad? Your franchise and your team is that dysfunctional? Then that's a problem. I really think, Justin, Zach Taylor is on the hot seat, and he's a guy. I'm telling you that, look, if this continues to go south for the Bengals, Zach Taylor might not make it to the end of the season. He might be an in-season firing. Before that game on Sunday, the Bengals had like a 47% chance to make the playoffs, which felt high, but still was up there. I think they dropped to like in the teens now with that.
Yeah, that was That might have been the worst loss on the season for any team. Just, and like, I kind of root for the Bengals. Like, I like the Bengals. I like Joe Burrow. I've always liked Joe Burrow. They've historically just been a dumpster fire of a franchise that has found a spark with some of their draft picks over the last couple of years, bringing in guys like Burrow and Chase and T Higgins. And I just, I want to see them be good, but they can't get out of their own way, man. Zach Taylor, I think, is an absolute bum. I think the defining play of that game for me, the moment I knew that they were cooked, and the crowd booed the hell out of them. But on that final drive, it was like second and long, it was like second and 10, second and 11, something like that. And, your strength at this point is you got the best 1-2 combo in the league with Chase and Higgins. The Jets secondary has been awful. You've been passing on them all game. And you run the ball right up the gut for no gain and put yourself in 3rd and 10 on the final drive of the game. Like, that to me was like egregious. The crowd erupted in boos after, like, you knew it was all over after that. And you know what? I just feel bad for this organization because they just can't get out of their own way.
Yeah, they really can't, and they have such an asset in Burrow, and it's like, if you can't win with a guy like that, then what does that say about your franchise? It says a lot. Yeah. All right, last topic, then we're going to wrap it up, Justin. Indianapolis Colts now 7-1. Are you ready to say that they are the best team in the NFL yet?
I'm still not ready to say they're the best team in the NFL, but I'm willing to say that they're one of the best teams in the NFL. I think they're benefiting from a similar situation to the Patriots, and it's one of the things that I'm still waiting, holding out with the Patriots is I want to see them consistently do this against top competition, right? I mean, their best, I think the best team they played so far was probably the Broncos, right? And they got lucky.
Rams.
The Broncos to the Rams. Yeah, right. And realistically they should have beat the Rams. They should have lost to the Broncos. So, but still, I want to see them do this on a consistent basis. But it's tough to deny them right now. I mean, they're a solid team at all levels. Solid defense. They're getting good quarterback play. They got arguably the MVP of the league. So yeah, they're the real deal. They're one of the best. Not ready to say they're the best yet.
See, personally, I'm not even ready to say they're one of the best. And I know that they're 7-1. I just still can't believe in it. I just really can't. With Daniel Jones and everything, the schedule has been so soft. I just still have a hard time saying that they're a top 5 team in this league. I think they're a top 12 team in this league. I picked them to win that division before the season. I still think they win that division. They're a playoff team. They're a much better team. One of the best teams in the league. I just have a hard time buying into it. And you know what? Like, look, we talked about the Patriots, and what did we start this podcast off with? Why not us, right? Well, I suppose the Colts could just say the same thing, but I believe in Drake May so much more than I believe in Daniel Jones. And that's what really holds me back more than anything, because I think the Colts, top to bottom, probably are a better team than the Patriots. But when you ask me why I just can't get behind the Colts, I still have trouble believing in Daniel Jones. I'm sorry. I've seen too much from him. This is the best stretch of his career. Great. Like, I still think when it comes down to it, he falls apart when it really counts. And if he makes me eat those words, good for him.
Yeah. My personal feeling about the Colts is that they're going to take a very similar pathway to the Vikings of last year, right? They're going to be like 11, 12, maybe even 13 win team, and then get throttled in like the first round of the playoffs by like a wild card, right? That's just like my feeling, my feeling about them. But at least kudos to them for winning games that they're supposed to, and going out and giving themselves a chance to get into the playoffs and cause some damage. I think at this point,
and for the record, Justin, I don't need Daniel Jones and the Colts to win the Super Bowl for me to say that, okay, I was wrong. Like, go out and win a playoff game or two and look good, and I'll eat it, because only one team wins a Super Bowl every year. So I think it's wicked, super pretentious of fans to say everyone that didn't win the Super Bowl is a loser.
Right.
I don't agree with that, but I need to see Jones at least win a game and look good in doing so, and maybe a second game, maybe at least look good in the postseason for me to say, okay, I believe in Daniel Jones now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's probably what we gotta wait and see.
All right, my friend. Anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
That's I think that's
a wrap.
Yeah, I think that's a wrap.
Non-football topic of the week. What are you going as for Halloween?
So you know what? This year I'm actually my wife and I were babysitting a friend's kid, so we're not even able to dress up this year. We're doing a little.
You can dress up. You just won't be going anywhere.
We can. I think
It'll be weird.
Yeah,
it'll be really weird.
Right.
But you could do it.
Exactly. Yeah, we could. So you know what? This is going to be one of the first years in a while that that we haven't dressed up. Because look, I mean, like I still. I'm still a fan of, dressing up and going to a Halloween party, right? I still think you can do that as an adult and have some fun with it. This is going to be the first year in a while that we haven't dressed up. But you know what? Like, I'm not missing it. Like, I'm not sitting here like wishing that I could do something crazy. Totally. You know what I mean? I'm totally. Very, very content going down the street, watching a buddy's kid for a bit and having a relatively early night. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's good. And then next year, things will be different.
Yes.
And then you'll just
exactly. Yeah, exactly. You start to enjoy it for a whole different reason. So
100%. Yeah. I mean, I can totally live without the whole Halloween thing. To be honest with you, it's something that when I was like in my early 20s, I was really into, and then it kind of got a little lame. Now I have 4 kids, so I do get dressed up with them every year. We've done some pretty like epic group costumes over the years. And I think this year I'm going as Dennis and my son are going as Marty McFly and Doc from Back to the Future. So that should be a pretty good one.
Nice. That's awesome. I'm surprised. Have you watched that movie with him? I'm surprised he.
He loves that movie.
Loves Back to the Future.
We watched all 3 of them. He loves them. He loves the Back to the Future trilogy. 100%.
That's awesome. Yeah, you have to send me some pictures. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh yeah. We'll get those up on social media. All right. I want to thank everyone that listened to this episode of the Dr. Football Patriots, Ultimate Patriots podcast. I really hope everybody enjoyed it. Enjoy the game this week against Atlanta. We will catch you next week with another episode. Be healthy, be well, be safe, everyone.